Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Couple of Nukes. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Whiskey, and I do have a bit of a head cold, so hopefully I don't sound too awful here. If I sound different, that means you're a true fan. It means you actually, have heard me on other episodes. If this is your first time, you wouldn't even know. But we're gonna have a great episode today. It's actually an episode that I think is really important, especially for our young adults out there, whether you're leaving the military, leaving college or whatever it may be, one of those biggest transitions in life, even just leaving high school sometimes, is going from living with your parents to a place of your own. I've got plenty of friends who still live with their parents, but one day they'll have to make that transition, hopefully. And we live in a time of economic hardship where there's a lot of debates about renting versus buying. There's a lot of debates about property and how valuable they are and if they're worth investing in right now. And also just the amount of a down payment can be difficult for some people. So we're here with a real estate expert to talk about all of that stuff, to talk about buying a home, the process, and some of the things that you may not know, but is good information to have because at some point we all need to get out there. So we have Ms. Kimberly G, but call her Kim, unless you're her mom and yelling at her. Ms. Kim is here to talk to us about real estate. So, Ms. Kim, would you start with telling us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in the real estate world to begin with?
Sure, sure. Well, first of all, Mr. Whiskey, thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And didn't know you had a cold, so you sound and look fine.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
I've been in the real estate business 10 plus years. Prior to that, I was in corporate America selling technology to dentists. So I've always been in the selling field, if you will, but I always loved wanting to help people. I mean, it was just something that every single day, if I see somebody struggling with groceries or whatnot, I would just always want to do the right thing. And I feel, helping people find their dream home, whatever it is, a studio apartment or a second home in the Hamptons, right?
Right,
It most of the time, 99% of the time, it is a happy ending. Your clients want the house and you're at the closing table and you hand over the keys. So I got into it because primarily that's what I enjoy. I love real estate. I love helping people. It's your job every day is completely different. You just don't know what tomorrow is going to be like. You'll get that
right.
one call and you're running around putting homes on the market and helping people find their homes. So I love it. I absolutely love what I do.
My mom was always a big fan of, window shopping, dream shopping online at houses. And, we would tour a lot. And one of the biggest surprises and or not so much a surprise after a few houses was that the pictures online and then the actual tour were different. And Miss Kim, real quick, could you share with us some of the nightmare homes where people reach out to you, we want to sell this home, and they say it's all great, and then you get there and you're like, whoa, whoa, this is gonna be to sell this is gonna require all of my expertise.
Well, typically you know about that nightmare home because it's been on that block or in your neighborhood for a while. And when clients do call and ask you to sell their home, you do a little bit of preliminary work prior to heading to the property. It's a lot of things that sellers and just people out there don't know what real estate agents actually do. We don't just open a door, have a key, and open the door for you. I mean, there's a lot more work that goes behind the scenes, both from a listing perspective and also from a purchase perspective. But you would do some of your due diligence prior to visiting with that client to sell their home. Just verify from a town, a village, or a city that everything
Right,
is up to snuff, that they've paid their taxes, because all that needs to be disclosed. But yes, once you get to the home, you have to be very cautious in how you communicate with the client because maybe they've been in there for 100 years and this is their favorite home and they love it and they don't want to sell it. So you have to be, very
right,
conscientious of their feelings and understand where they're coming from before you just zoom right in and say, you've got to pick up that purple rug.
right.
So there's a lot of things you have to really, in this business, it's all about listening And even again, whatever side you're on, whether you're helping a client sell their home or you're helping a client find a home, you really need to listen. And if a client tells you that they're looking to purchase a condo and they want a washer and dryer in the unit, and you show them something that does not have a washer and dryer in the
Right.
unit, you haven't done your job. So you have to make sure you listen, you pay attention, and they want to be heard and they want to feel that you're taking care of them. Because in this world right now, I think with any type of profession, whether it's real estate, doctors, dentists, teachers, there's good, there's bad. And
Right, of
you
course.
really have to, I say, interview and take your time and know that you can work with this person, because it becomes, honestly, it becomes a relationship. It's not just about come in, look at my house, and how much is it worth? You'll be spending lots and lots of time with me between preparing your house, making recommendations, possible staging, marketing, professional pictures. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it for sure.
Right. And you touched upon two important things that I want to discuss. The first one being closer to the end of what you just said there, which is having a relationship with the real estate agent. I think a lot of young adults, they're hot to trot, they're ready to get their first home. Maybe it's not their dream home or it is, whatever the situation is. And they're just like, do a Google search or look on their phone and just grab the first real estate agent they find and work with them. Would you say it's much more beneficial to young adults or anyone trying to buy a home for their first time to research all of those real estate agents, look at the reviews, look at, past projects and actually get on the phone with them and, don't let them be pushy and just try to snag you away and trap you. Like you can talk to them, but that doesn't, you're not in like a locked in contract. So if you want to talk to some other real estate agents, you can do that and find the one who's going to be the right fit for you. Do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I think, whether you're young, a first-time home buyer, or you're middle-aged first-time home buyer, I don't think it really matters on the age. I think doing your homework initially is really important. One of my really good friends' son had called me last year. He's already out of college 2 years and said, "What's the process of purchasing a home?" So it's never too early to start that process. Because once you feel like you're ready to purchase a home, and then you start getting your pre-approvals from a mortgage or a bank company, and then you start realizing, wow, I really am not ready. And now you've got
Right.
to wait another 2 or 3 years. So I think being educated ahead of time, there's absolutely no negative to that at all. There's so much involved, your credit score, your down payment, your income. So there's lots and lots of things involved that, when all those things are in order and they're looking really, really good, then it's time for you to get pre-approved. And then we call it your buying power. So once we have new clients come to us, we send them off to our mortgage broker or whomever they want to work with. And
Right.
once they get pre-approved, then we're ready to start showing them homes, whether it's $100,000 co-op or $900,000 home. Now we know what their buying power is because they've already done
Right.
the legwork. And I think it's important that, when you're just starting the process, again, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you're ready to buy. I call it making your buying power even stronger. So if you've been pre-approved for 200,000 and you're putting down 20%, while you're waiting 2 years to look for that home of your dreams, make your 20%, 22% down. Make your 22% down, 25% down. Keep
Right.
making down payment and your offer even stronger, because we are competing with a lot of other buyers who
Of
could be
course.
putting more down or maybe even cash offers. So I always tell my young clients, even, clients who are just buying their first home, just keep making your buying power stronger and better. Keep that credit score excellent or make it higher. If you have $10,000 in the bank, your goal should be $20,000 in the bank by next year. So just again, keep making your buying power stronger and better. And yes, and again, I mean, speaking with, multiple real estate agents is definitely the right thing to do. And a comfort level is really what it comes down to. And again, you'll be spending lots of time with this agent. So I think you need to, if you don't know the right questions to ask, I personally, with my new clients, is I ask for them to come into my office and I do a buyer consultation. I get to know them. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I show them, I share with them, and I tell them the process because if you've never been through it before, how do you have any idea what
Right.
to expect? And I always say, let's go shopping, right? So that's the fun part. Let's go look for homes, right? Let's look and see. And being in the business for so long, I'm really able to point out positive and negatives in the house for clients. And then it's really up to them to decide what makes them happy and doesn't make them happy. And after showing 4 or 5 homes with a client, I know what they want at this point. So if I
Right.
see it come on the market, I'll be like, listen, this does not have a flat yard, but do you still want to see it? And they'll be like, nope, not at all. So once you start spending time with your clients, you start to understand more and more of what their needs and wants are.
Right. And a few things there. One, I think that there should be a requirement for the public education system to have like a buy a home class, not a real estate class, but for our high schoolers or our children to get educated on the process, right? Obviously, if we call a real estate agent, like you said, you're going to walk us through, whether it's with a PowerPoint or just over the phone, you're going to tell us everything we need to get together. And obviously, we can look it up, but I think it would be very beneficial even if you don't buy a house right out of high school, right, you still have that base knowledge, that background. You can be like, yeah, I remember learning about that. I need to get this, and that. And I think it would
Sure.
set a lot of young adults up on the right path. I know when, like you said, your buying power, part of that is a lot of young adults go and work in the waitressing industry, and what they do with their tips and their taxes can affect their buying power because the more income they're making, the higher loan or pre-approval is more likely, right? But a lot
That's
of them just want to pay the least amount of taxes as soon as they get out, not realizing that if it shows them as making less income, therefore the bank or whoever is going to be like, well, you want this $500,000 house and you're only making X, Y, and Z. But I think in general, again, y'all walk us through it, but I think it would be great if we had that little pre-background knowledge with the public education system teaching us on that ahead of time.
It's true. Actually, my daughter and I were just speaking of this the other night and saying that there's just so much more that they should learn when in school. And a lot of it is business tips and tricks because
Right,
those are things, okay, maybe they may go off, to a different profession, but it's still important that they need to understand, the business way of living. And they don't teach, home buying, ownership, and how to prepare for it, and how to build
right,
your credit score, get your first credit card. I mean, some parents will share that with their young adults and some won't. And some you learn the hard way. But there are some mortgage and banks that do presentations and events, if you will, for first-time home buying ship. And that's probably something we should focus a little bit more on. I agree with you. I mean, every state and therefore probably every county is different as well across the United States. So it's hard
right,
to say, I'm personally in New York and Connecticut. It's hard to say what's, being done in the Midwest and out west, but your mortgage rate is important. So we see that fluctuate. We know it had like an all-time low right after COVID and everybody refinanced and everybody was happy. And then the interest rates went up. So buyers waited and now it's going back down and buyers are coming back around.
right,
So, the interest rate is what matters as well, because if you're pre-approved at like a 5% and then the interest rates go up to 7 or 8, if your buying power was at 500,000, now you can't afford that $500,000 home at an
right,
8%. So you have to make sure you keep your eye on all that. And again, having the cash in the bank is really key, because if you're putting 40% down and the interest rates go up, now we can play with our down payment and maybe put possibly a lower down payment down so we can, protect where our mortgage resides and what we can afford. But no, I agree. Even though things are different from state to state, I do feel at the end of the day, you still need a great credit score and decent income. And alluding, going back to the cash, people with cash businesses, there are, and I'm not a mortgage broker, but I do know that there are many mortgage options for buyers out there, whether you have your own business, whether you're a 1099, whether you're all cash and you show that you put that cash in the bank. Now I know that there are some banks that will take your bank statement specifically based off of those cash deposits. So again, you just need to look into it. You need to speak to a reputable bank/mortgage broker and just ask questions. Don't, give your personal information. Don't give your social
Right.
security number yet. Feel comfortable and just ask questions. And if you have a really good real estate agent, usually we have our circle of our group of people who help us become successful, as we call it, getting to the closing table.
Right.
We usually, would be able to provide those suggestions as well.
Right. And like you said, there's a lot of fluctuations, but there's also a lot of universal things across the states, across time. Now, Ms. Kim, what would be your advice? So a lot of people are saying, hey, this year in particular is an election year. Is this not the time to buy a home? Should we wait? And if we're gonna wait, how long should we wait till the new president is in office? Are election years the worst time to buy, or what is your input on that from what you've seen in your years of experience?
I think everyone's a little nervous, of course, every time it comes around to election year. I think it's
Right.
always, who's our new president? We don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know where the interest rates are going to lie between now and November. And in the famous words of Barbara Corcoran, when you ask her when is the right time to purchase a home, the answer is now. Now. I mean, you'd never, ever have heard of somebody investing in a home and holding on to it for 5 to 7 years and saying it was the worst investment. No, I mean, you're making an investment and, you usually see your return, usually 5 to 7 years after your purchase. And there's no reason to wait. If you've got the funds and you have the down payment and you've been pre-approved and you're ready to look, go for it. Go for it. It is the best investment you could make and probably the fastest return. And again, dependent upon your situation, it could be a condo, it
Right.
could be a single family home. I tell my kids all the time, I would love for you to purchase your first condominium because condos you could rent out after, well, you could buy them now and rent them out, but it's a great investment if you live in it for a few years and hold on to it. And then that will be your first investment property. Rent it out, and then you usually borrow from the condominium equity so that you can reinvest in your second home. So I think there's always going to be when is the right time for me to invest. And if you have, again, the proper credentials
Right.
and pre-approved, there is absolutely no reason to wait at all. When I sold technology to dentists, we know technology is constantly evolving, right? I
Every
mean,
day.
you just mentioned how those awesome glasses are, connected and a better brand and style came out 6 months later. And
Yep.
if you constantly are that person saying, I'm going to wait till the technology gets better, you'll never purchase and you'll never invest. And that was, really hard for me to tell my previous, career, my clients, well, then you'll never invest because it is the truth, right? I mean,
Right.
same with Apple computers and our Apple phones. I mean, they're constantly coming out with upgraded models. And if you're waiting for interest rates to go down to 2%, you'll never purchase. I'm not sure we'll see that anytime really soon, but I think the interest rates are at a great rate right now, and the time to buy is now for sure.
And in the beginning, just going back, you mentioned that there's a lot of work that you as a real estate agent have to do. And I know a lot of young adults and even, people who are unsatisfied with their careers or trying something different, a lot of them pivot and say, I'll just go to you get my real estate license and then I'll just start, making millions or hundreds of thousands. Just all I got to do is sell a couple homes and then relax the rest of the year. Can you tell us, as someone who's been doing it for over a decade, some of the reality of that and the amount of work you actually have to put in?
Sure, sure. Well, I think like anything, you've got to put the work in to see it, right? To get it out. And when I decided to get my license 11 years ago, I was still working my full-time career. And on weekends, I did open houses till I, fell on the floor. I would take out tons of tenants for rentals at night. I did 2 full-time jobs for 2.5 years. So I grew my real estate business as I was still working full time. If you can afford to get your license and just work it hard for 1 or 2 years and not get paid, well, then go for it. But you have to really have that expectation. It's not going to fall on your lap. Don't think because, once you get your license, a brokerage then hires you and they're not going to feed you leads. Yes, you might get some opportunity from other agents who are busy within the brokerage, but you really have to work very hard to market yourself, to promote yourself, to have the proper website, to be on social media, and people have to have an awareness of you. And when people see me, they know I'm a real estate agent. They're like, how's the market? How are you doing? And, my social media shows that. But I would say for anybody out there that is interested in getting their real estate license, absolutely go for it and definitely get your license, but be prepared to work really, really hard. It's not going to be handed to you. You might work with a client for a year and a half, and maybe you might close them on that $1 million home. But if you're walking away with, a $10,000 commission check, divide that into 12 months, divide that into, 12 and a half months. But for easy math,
Right.
you're making $1,000 a month. Can you survive on that? In certain counties, cities, states, I'm sure you can, but you have to understand, then once you get that lump check, now you have to give a piece to Uncle Sam. So it's not easy, and you have to
Right.
have a lot of deals going on at once. I mean, in the beginning, somebody told me you have to have at least one property in contract a month to be able to get a monthly check. And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of hustle. And if you're able to multitask and you're organized and you're hungry, the business will work for you. And it's not something simple. You have to make sure that you go to the town, wherever that home resides, or a village or city, and pull paperwork on that property and make sure everything looks okay. Make sure the taxes are paid, make sure the taxes that are listed on the listing are accurate. So there's a lot of things we do to protect our buyer as well as our seller when buyers, give offers. So I say get your license and hook up with an experienced real estate agent, have a mentor, and ask lots of questions. The testing and taking the test is definitely the long part. At least here, in New York, you have to go through a 70-hour course first. Once
Right.
you pass that, then you take the state exam. And then once you pass that, you'll get your license within a few weeks. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of work for sure. And it pays off if you work really hard and you're willing to take no paycheck for almost 2 years.
It's like all these podcast conferences I go to and everything, they always say, number one advice for podcasters, don't quit your 9 to 5. So it's kind of same advice there because I understand what you're saying. You could go for a long period of time with not selling a home, and if that's your only source of income, it can be difficult. Now, you mentioned social media, which obviously it existed 10 years ago, but very differently than it does today. And I
Mm.
feel like it wasn't a big part of the business industry where it definitely is now. Can you talk about how you've seen social media shape and change the world of real estate? I mean, even like right now, you being on your first podcast. So everyone give a round of applause for Miss Kim. She's doing great so far, first time podcasting, but it's doing stuff like podcasts, running an Instagram page or a Facebook page. It's more than just a website. How has that transition been for you, and how have you seen it play out in the real estate world?
Well, first of all, you just see my face go from white to the color of my dress. So I am really red pink right now. And that answer is you've got to just go outside the box if you're not comfortable. I mean, and thank you for saying that this is my first podcast. And was I nervous? Was I sick? I'm like, what do I do? What should I say? What should I wear? I was very, very, very nervous. If you, I think it's generational when it comes to Instagram, right? And to Facebook and to LinkedIn and to TikTok. Yeah, I find that there's different generations that use, different.
Right.
And I've, of course, I've had Facebook for a while, so that's not a problem. I've had to figure out Instagram, and then my kids showed me, and I think I got it. I don't think I'm the best at Instagram, but I figured it out. I
Right.
wanted to get as many followers as I can. I'm trying to succeed on that. And then there's these reels, and the reels are video. And I get a little nervous when it comes to that. So I think it's changed drastically where, prior, at least for me 10 years ago, it was like, all right, You post the home that you sold on Facebook. You posted, I just listed this particular home, or you have a picture of you and your buyer and you and your seller, right? So that's always nice, but there are so many more real estate, I guess there's so much more real estate reels and real estate posts and real
Right.
estate stories now on every single platform. They almost feel like you're competing now and you have to keep up.
Exactly.
And that's
Right.
really and that's really hard. I'm out on the road showing homes. I'm hopefully doing more podcasts. I'm preparing homes for sale. And then where does the social media part fit in? And I do try to, when I'm showing a home, take a picture of the pool because people know I love pools. Take a picture of the fireplace. I love my winter fireplaces. I take all these pictures. I'm like, oh, right. I forgot to post it because I'm saying to myself, well, that's okay if that was yesterday. Nobody on Instagram doesn't think that you're not there today.
Right. Right.
It's okay to still post it. So I'm building content, and that's where I've learned to make it a little bit easier for me. So I'm starting to take pictures and do more of me in the car. If somebody take a picture of me, and then I have all these things that I can post and not feel so pressured. I don't have time to keep up on somebody else's posts and Instagram so that I can respond to them, which is supposedly an algorithm, which brings you up even higher.
Yeah, of course.
So it's hard. So then you have to put away like a whole nother hour, hour and a half just to read your Instagram and your feeds and your DMs. And it's pressure. It's pressure. But if you want to be up there, it's all part of your business plan.
I understand it entirely because my business runs on social media. People don't realize how time consuming it is. Even with the new AI generation tools, it's still a lot of time to manage all of that, to
Mhm.
schedule everything, to post everything, to record everything, and find what is valuable content, especially in a world, like you said, where every real estate agent is now doing, reels and posts. How can mine stand out?
Mhm.
What trends can I hop on? What can I do that is uniquely me? And again, reels do so much better than just posts. And it's like, so what kind of reel can I do that also redirects people back to my business and isn't just getting a like and a swipe? Because you need to promote yourself and get people back to the business. So I understand because sometimes I post reels and they'll do really well, but does it redirect people back to the show? It's like no, but and
Mhm.
like you said, I follow, and I only follow like maybe 300 people, but all of them are posting every day. Sometimes some of them 5 times a day. So like you said,
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
have time to keep up with all of this. So it almost
Yes.
sounds like to be a real estate agent, you now need a virtual assistant or like a social media manager, which
Absolutely.
who's gonna pay for that, right?
Absolutely. Yes,
So it's
absolutely. A
difficult.
lot of agents do have VA virtual assistants and, yeah, it's just, I keep telling my kids, I'll send you my pictures and you do the post for me.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, go have kids so you don't have to pay for virtual assistants. That's the big takeaway here today. If you have kids to manage your social media. No, but
That's
I
right.
understand it's very interesting. And speaking of social media and making good clips, I'll have you provide me with some right here. Can you give us top pieces of advice for first-time home buyers? And I can make it a social media clip. So,
Oh,
Miss Kim,
top pieces of advice for
right.
first-time home buyers. Sure, that's great. I think I'm going to answer this question based on the fact that you are my buyer and you've reached out to me and I'm doing a buyer consultation. And what I had said earlier in the show, that meeting with the proper people that is going to take you from step A to step Z in the process is important. Hiring, interviewing the right real estate agent and feeling comfortable with them, taking a look at their Instagram, their Facebook, seeing that they truly are an active real estate agent. Ask them if they have a web page, do the history, how long have they been in the business, and what is their year to date, what is their history sales. Again, each market is different. Like there might be more opportunities as far as a price range in one particular state versus another. So it doesn't mean that if somebody sold a 500 million and somebody else sold, 100,000, that doesn't mean that they didn't sell a lot. It's just the average price range per home. So don't take that so much into consideration. Don't just, you know, most buyers like go into the bank of where they bank, where they have their savings account and they ask questions there. That's fine. That's no problem. But I feel once you've narrowed it down who you're going to work with and sit down with the real estate agent, and that's where I help them, feel more comfortable about the process. And that is preparing yourself, making sure you have the money in the bank for the proper down payment. What is the current market like? Do we have a lot of property or don't we? Will there be a lot of competition? How does your down payment differ to what the standard or most people are putting down? If you're putting down 5% and the market calls for 20, let's start making that 5%, 10%. So preparing to win the bid and get that home. And not to change your financial situation. Don't go out and purchase a car because now you've just, increased your debt. So keep everything the same or make it better. Don't open up a credit card. So there's a lot of things that we teach them when you start working with us, how to maintain that financial stability. And again, don't make it less, continue to make it better. And as we start looking for homes, I think it's really important to be absolutely honest, right? Okay, I really cannot stand that purple rug, but under that purple rug is hardwood floors. So sometimes you have to have a vision, and it's hard to have a vision when there's, so much color and maybe 1970s hitting a particular home. And I think the other thing is important, for home buying is just be patient. I mean, you have to understand your type of personality. And if your personality is, I like it, I want it, I'm going to purchase it now, it may not always happen that way in real estate. So you have to be definitely patient. And on the flip side, if you're not ready to make a decision quickly and you're typically timid and you don't jump on the first thing, that's okay too. Just be patient. And if your real estate agent is not patient with you, then you've chosen the wrong real estate agent because it is a process. It's an investment, and you can't expect somebody to make this huge investment and jump quickly. I think some of the things that I see with buyers that don't work out is they jump from real estate agent to real estate agent to real estate agent. They just might see a listing, call that listing agent, see it, and then jump and leave. They're not loyal. And
Mm.
at least what's been happening in the news with the class action suit, I really honestly don't want to get into it, but we can't show a buyer a property until they sign either representation that they want to be represented by me or a particular agent, or non-representation. So that is what has been going on, from coast to coast. And unfortunately, buyers do need to sign a piece of paper if they are willing to work with us, exclusivity, or not be represented. So it causes a little bit of a hiccup in the process, but if you know what you're doing as a real estate agent, if you know how to present it, if you know how to sell, and they came to you as a referral, they should have no problem signing that. We're not, locking them into, we're just saying, listen, you're working with just us. We're going to show you homes in blank county, and we're going to have this agreement for the next 6 months. And if we don't find you what you want, you could move on to somebody else. But I think it's a positive, honestly, because buyers just hopping from agent to agent or just walking in on an open house and expecting to like throw in an offer. I mean, real estate agents know how to present offers. Real estate agents have relationships with the listing agents. So they're like, yep, we know Kim Giarraputo. She's put in 5 offers with us. She's solid. We know her buyer is solid. So if you're just running in and showing them a pre-approval, yep, I got the money in the bank. My offer is for asking, let me have this house. It just doesn't work that way. It's going to take them a heck of a lot longer to find a home.
Right. So the worst people are unprepared and unrealistic expectations, it sounds like. So, like you
Yeah,
said, especially that patience
absolutely.
aspect and just,
Absolutely. And I think that's for anything in life, right? Not just buying a home. If you're
right.
not prepared and you're unrealistic, you really have to stop and think about what you're doing. Right? If you have unrealistic expectations, you're always going to be dissatisfied. So you really need to be prepared.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have covered the work it takes to be a real estate agent, best and worst practices as a home buyer, the reality of the process of it, how social media has affected it, and plenty of other great stuff. Ms. Kim, is there anything else you'd like to discuss with us before we sign off here?
No, it's never too late to purchase a home.
The time is now. Buy
The
your home
time is
now.
now. Thank you so much for having me on. I really hope I was informative to your guests.
You were, in fact, for all of us in that, New York, Connecticut area who want to reach out to you. We've seen you on social media now, on podcasts and stuff, and we want to go buy a home with you. How can we find you? We've got the links in the description below, but what are some of the best ways to reach out to you as well?
Sure, you could DM me on Instagram. My handle is Kim Giarraputo, KimGiarraputo. Cell phone number is 914-419-9196. And thank you so much again for having me.
Of course, thank you for being here.
And I hope you feel better.
Sailing through the ocean blue, nuclear reactors my crew, guiding the ship, the stars as our guide, through the waves we ride, jokes and laughter fill the air. On this voyage we have to share, working together, side by side, as one family we will abide. In the heart of a ship we reside, nuclear operators with pride, powering the vessel with every stride. Our mission, a source of great pride.